Alright, now that everyone's settled in, I would like to preach a sermon. I only wanted to be a preacher with my life, so I think I'm owed that. This sermon is about love, but more specifically, it's about hypocrisy. How a preacher can end up in jail. When I was younger, I was told that the Bible was the truth that would be good for me to follow and eventually preach. So I began writing religiously with prayers to God every night because I was thankful for the gift of salvation and love promised to me in exchange for faith and devotion. I was gifted a beautiful place called church where I regularly went, in which I could be happy and worship the loving God who created everything alongside the most caring and moral people in my suburban community. The Bible says that faith without works is void, so to prove my faith and love for God and His salvation plan, I memorized verses and studied the depths of my religion, desiring only to become a preacher for the uttermost glory of God. And I need you to understand just how much this thing took over my life. I woke up praising God and started my day reading chapter after chapter in my Bible and followed it up with a devotional. On my bus ride to Christian schools, I listened to 2 sermons on my phone, which I was able to do if I sped up the videos before I fervently took notes in my Bible class, where I studied every denomination, the meta-narrative of Christianity, the Trinity, the Transfiguration, Sanctification, Calvinism, the Tribulation, Predestination, the Pre-incarnate Christ, the Protestant Reformation, literalism versus metaphorical understanding, major versus minor prophets, canonical versus non-canonical books, and everything there is to know about all the other Abrahamic religions as well, just so I could ensure my framework of understanding the universe was logically sound and therefore objectively true. I detested atheists, who in my mind were willingly against God and inhabited with demonic spirits. When I got home from studying theology that confirmed this rationale all day, I played worship songs and led my family in a nightly prayer and Bible reading before I headed off to my room happily, dedicating a page of my prayer journal to God before reading in my Bible once more and finally listening to 2 more sermons before I fell asleep and started the whole thing over the next day. And I was very happy doing this, by the way. I didn't want any of this to stop. And I was even happy despite the fact that before all this I was But then a girl from my Christian school killed herself one day after her Christian classmates bullied her. Let's say this poor girl refused Christianity because she was exposed to nothing but religious hypocrisy until the day she died. Would it be loving and perfect justice for her to burn in hell and scream in agony for eternity? God claims His desire is total human salvation, but I began reading instances in which He murdered kids and families, condoned rape and slavery, and threatened cannibalism for disobedience. If you kill a child when you don't need to, you cannot be all-loving or all-powerful. Yet billions believe this to be so with Yahweh. Then of course my family's pastor turned out to be an abusive preacher who raped a 12-year-old. So my conclusion after realizing the absurdity of the Bible Belt and the countless syllogistic failures of the Bible is that it cannot be objectively true in its foundational claim that Yahweh is the creator of the universe. But I wanted to be a preacher, and I was told that the Bible is the truth that would be good for me to preach. But upon illuminating religious irrationality, many Christians framed me to be insane or full of evil spirits for simply voicing logical inconsistencies that do exist within their theology. And the more I spoke, the more hateful many became. I received death threats from the devout, convinced that they were truly following the unconditionally loving teachings of Jesus Christ. And every time I was mocked or ran in circles with delusional reasoning, or told that I was better off dead by these religious hypocrites, I heard a frivolous and ostentatious chatter, a demeaning noise that obfuscated the truth, a needless and hypocritical noise that induced insanity. But I continued anyways because the only desire I've ever had in my life is to preach the truth.
There is no hell. There is no heaven.
Now folks, I gotta be honest with you. I felt owed something like a religion of love. This manifested itself when I fell for a woman who understood the absurdity of the Bible. She replaced the absence and vacuity of the God-sized hole in my life. I was devoted to her. I provided acts of service, I was generous, I was faithful to her, but wouldn't you know it, she was not faithful to me. She promised a loving relationship that was evidently untrue. Now despite this, I continued to see her because I was convinced that even more devotion could yield true love the size of a missing God, which, stay with me here y'all, produced a specific brand of self-incubated religious delusion. After months of this delusional relationship continuing, I became overwhelmed with paranoia, and my sanity began to dwindle. Apostasy was the necessary conclusion, but the night I decided to abandon her, the woman physically prevented me from leaving. She swore nothing but love, but I was convinced it was untrue. She called me crazy, and it made me think of when I was called crazy for leaving religion. And it made me think of the loving God of the Bible mutilating 42 children for disrespecting a prophet, and when he lovingly demanded the complete genocide of men, women, children, infants, cattle, sheep, camels, donkeys, before commanding the Israelites to take little girls as sex slaves in Numbers 31. When he lovingly caused conditions leading to child cannibalism when forcing Israel into a siege as a result of their disobedience in Deuteronomy 28. And I was the insane one for questioning how an unnecessarily hateful action could ever peruse as love. I was insane. Insane because in their eyes, I didn't care enough to look into the context that justifies God murdering kids. Now, for the sake of argument, assume I beat this woman. Assume I fell into a fit of hysteria and kicked her and hit her and choked her and waved a gun in her face while she feared for her life. Do you think it's possible for that unnecessary violence to be perfectly loving? For the sake of argument, assume I said, "Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! I'll take your life! Don't think I won't! There is nothing that is beyond me! There is nothing!" And then I just said I love you. See how there's no context that can change how insane that is? If, for the sake of solely hypothetical argument, I did all that, I could say that's hateful. And many people, many Christians would agree that that's a hateful thing to do, but if they cared to believe that my hypothetical violence was truly hateful, then they would also agree that God murdering kids when he didn't have to would be hateful as well. But they don't do that. Instead, billions call it love. Either I'm evil for any violence I may or may not have done, and God is too, or neither of us are. If you disagree, then I can see your dishonesty. And all that matters is the truth. But if I was really being honest, then I would admit that that justification makes me an abusive preacher. Come on, you don't. And shut the fuck up! Dear God, I hope I'm just like Pastor Morris one day.
Be a doll, dear. Come on, dear. Be a doll.
What do you think of that, Kim?